didn't.
Do it.
I missed downtown. I wasn't downtown.
Oh, for the Apple Festival.
Yeah, how was it? Were you here?
I was here on Friday, and it was busy.
Hello.
Hey,
Here. How doing?
Hi, I'm Patsy Dupree.
There you go.
Terry, nice to meet you. So you are a new board member?
hey.
Well. I'm just ears.
Oh, looking in, okay. So because I don't know if we've got anything.
If you want to sit in the big chair. How are you today? Good, good.
All right, I'm gonna share screen. So here in the room, we got Terry, Young, Patsy, Dupree, Debbie. And then on the call, we've got Caroline, Matthew, and Linda. Big group today. Good, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So last month, or last meeting, we didn't have July, we didn't actually have minutes. I had included the notes that, because Caroline and Linda were here, but then we've got the minutes from June. Which are also pretty light. If anybody wants to make a motion.
I move we approve the various and the sundry minutes.
I'll second that.
Was that Linda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Caroline,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Patsy,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so 7th Avenue streetscape. I don't have a lot of an update except for that it's happening. We've got a contractor for that, Harper Construction. We had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago, and they had asked some questions about scheduling and what we need to focus on for them. They had asked things like, is it better to close off the whole street and get it done faster, or do lane closures? And Lou and I both were pushing on lane closures. So that way there's access to businesses until the absolute moment when there can't be. There's going to be some struggle with it, as construction goes. But in the end, it will get done. It'll probably get started around the end of this year, first of next year, but we haven't had a second meeting with the construction company to have a more finalized schedule on that. Is there any questions on streetscape? Nope. All right.
Hold on, I have one thing for streetscape.
Okay, oh, just applause. It's going, this first phase is from Grove Street to the train tracks. So it's a pretty small section, but the section where it's got the most activity right now.
So how far is it?
When there's future phases, it'll, the idea is to go all the way to the Greenway. But that's, down the line a little bit. All right. So I don't have, I wasn't sure if Sean or Tripp were going to join us on the branding. You can sit anywhere. But I think most of y'all here have seen it, except for maybe Patsy, on the initial look of the branding. So you can get a sneak peek of that. So they've sent a survey to our, I'm going to talk for a second. They sent a survey to our steering committee to review this and give some feedback for it. And so now I think they're making some tweaks based off of that survey. And I think that they might be joining us for a board meeting next week. So essentially, I'm not gonna go through their whole presentation, but this is the first look of their, like their first stab at the branding, logo and design. This was after 2 days of them being there. So it was after a very short turnaround. So then they're taking back that feedback for, from our steering committee for additional tweaks to it. What they found were a lot of cool connections with our 7th Avenue and the history of it previously being named Brooklyn to the 7th Avenue subway station in Brooklyn, which was pretty cool. I'll show you. So this is the signage in the subway station in 7th Avenue in Brooklyn. So just all of the timing of all of that kind of, not the timing, but the connections of that coming together. It was kind of a cool little wink and a nod to it. So they're gonna have some elements of this mosaic style look.
Looks like the H kind of looks like the Henderson.
Yeah, and so that way it ties into our, the downtown overall. This isn't, you know, obviously the done deal. I think they'll probably have a couple of updates on that. And these were a few different looks. Some are more of a nod to the train, some are more of a nod to the cobblestone. And then this was more of the arts graphic, which is the one I personally like a lot, is that mosaic style. And so then they made some like alternative logos for different features like the depot. And then it showed some different options of where that might be able to be used in the future. Some banner designs. The gateway signage for the streetscape. Pedestrian signs, wayfinding. Stuff that we can have during the construction of the streetscape. This was a pitch that they had for this small business loan program that we've got funding for. Oh. It's not. So anyway, that's where it currently is. I haven't heard back from them. I just contacted them last week and asked what next steps were, and I think that they're just reviewing the survey responses and we'll have some next steps for us after that. Is there any questions on the branding?
I want to know what Linda and Patsy think. And can you pull up the first part that has the wording, like the story line?
And I think that might be some things that they were gonna change a little bit. So this was kind of how they position the whole district. So it says, we're downtown 7th Avenue. It is here that the history of downtown Hendersonville evolves from the courthouse town to the center of commerce. The Transylvania Railroad connected Hendersonville to the towns and resorts of Western North Carolina. By the early 1900s, a large depot that still stands today used drays to carry the bounty of Henderson County's orchards and farms beyond Asheville, Spartanburg, and points beyond. It is here that freed African Americans came from rural settings like Happy Land to seek opportunities and employment around the depot and in the businesses of 7th Avenue. The district was surrounded by a thriving neighborhood called Brooklyn that would stand witness to the complex history of urban renewal, resilience, and change. Today, Green Meadows and legacy businesses stand as a reminder of the diverse history here. It is here that our landmark depot stands sentinel surrounded by historic buildings, diverse businesses, and a new energy on the avenue. Inspired entrepreneurs are opening new businesses and renovating buildings. Farmers once again gather here to sell fruit, vegetables, and food to people who come from near and far. Artists are transforming once barren spaces into places of whimsy and imagination. And trains still have still travel now on model tracks, sparking the imagination of young and old. Seventh Avenue is a part of the great adventure of downtown Hendersonville, a place that sets the standard of what a revitalized downtown can be. We invite you to enjoy a stroll along the avenues, experience the intricate mosaic of our history, revel in the art in our galleries and on the street, explore places where repurposing what is old into something new is part of our rich character. We are Seventh Avenue, downtown's creative edge. So that's a lot of words, and that's not something, what they've said is not something that we might really use too often, but it's more of a way to position where we're getting to with that whole theme of it. I'll stop now.
Sounds like a big focus on depot. Which is what is, I guess, the big thing down in Seventh Avenue area anyway, the building. You know, this is just a sidebar, but I was in Asheville just a couple of days ago, North Asheville, and there is a little trolley that runs on just a little bit of the train track.
Oh, really?
One single trolley. I thought that would be cool. Wouldn't that be cool if we're gonna have a depot part of that, you know, have a little trolley that you could just experience riding on the train track. But no, this looks pretty interesting. Everybody was excited about it?
Yeah, I think so. I would say so after we had our steering committee, Terry was there. What do you think? What do you think?
I like it. It was good information. I mean, I told you I just listen and learn. Yeah, it was a good meeting. I enjoyed it.
It seems like it has a good nod to the history of the African-American community there and the blending, which is important part of that area.
Oh, and for y'all to call, this is Karen E. She's here about the art project coming next. All right, anything else that anyone wants to talk about related to this?
Hey, Jamie, the board meeting next week,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not gonna be in town, so Matthew will have to run it, and I guess I won't be able to vote, but can we still do Zoom where I can still interact?
yeah.
Okay,
All right, well, if there's nothing else we want to talk about on this, we'll move on. So, okay, next order of business, I just mentioned we had Karen E. here, and this is kind of a good segue from talking about the branding and what we've got with that to projects that, so back earlier this year, she had approached me about what was initially going to be a public art project focused on the underpasses of Maple Street. And that felt a little bit more complicated. And so then they kind of pivoted and they applied for a grant from the Henderson County Community Foundation for funding for this project. I had kind of said, we've got a lot of things on our plate, particularly with this branding. So let's, y'all can kind of work with what you need to work with, but then I kind of want to wait and see what direction the branding is going to go before our board really has a whole lot of consideration of things, just so we don't get things conflated on that. With that, she has a presentation today. Can y'all see this presentation slide online?
I was wondering what Steve stood for now. I know.
Can y'all see that?
I can
Linda.
see it. I can see
Okay.
it fine.
Oh, hey, Michelle. All right. Okay, so then I'm gonna turn it over for Karen to give her presentation on this project.
Well, good morning. I'm Karen Eve Bain, and my family's been in Henderson County for several hundred years, and I've worked in arts and city planning and city government for many years in many cities. And the organization that I chair, which is STEEP, which is Storytelling, Education, and Arts Programs, is a nonprofit. We've been around for 10 years. You may remember that we brought the Do Tell Story Fest to Hendersonville for many, many years. And our board, during COVID, of course, started to shift from doing virtual storytelling to doing storytelling and arts programs in different ways. And that became film, painting, and stories. So if you could go to the next one, Jamie. And art has always been part of our remit, and we looked at the reasons that public art brings people together. It's primarily because it creates a sense of value and respect for communities. It's the visual stories of our past. It looks at our present and even into our future. And we thought that the Beeline project in Hendersonville was just great, and it needed to lead to somewhere else in addition to the depot and the farmers market, that we could help highlight all the interesting things in the 7th Avenue corridor. And by providing public art in the 7th Avenue corridor, we would be engaging residents. It would be attractive to visitors and of course the people who buy and sell and own in that area. And we chose art projects that were for adults and kids, for people of all ages, very accessible art programs. And then we went forward to apply for a grant. Next. One of the questions is, who are we? STEEP is a nonprofit. We have a diverse board, as you can see, people of color, people of different religious ethnicities on our board. And we look at diverse artists, at audiences and communities that don't have art in them, that don't have access to art, so that we can bring art to many people. And specifically, we look at artists who have been marginalized or don't have opportunities. And I mean, our story, just in short, is that we've got a talented, diverse board. We've done over 15 public and private grants. We've had over 60 programs in schools and communities. We do a lot of work with racially and economically diverse audiences, from kids to senior citizens. We've had 8 multi-day events like the Do Tell Story Fest. And since 2020, we've produced 4 short films, 14 videos for schools and libraries. And we've served about 13,000 kids and adults in the last 10 years. So what is this project about? Our theme is growing community, with the emphasis on unity. And it's really to honor our diverse community in the 7th Avenue area, to look at the stories, the culture, the contributions over the past, the present, as we go into the future, working together. And it's to engage people in connections through art. So while we are producing art, the big deliverable is having communities work together, to trust each other, to build relationships, because we feel that every time Black, brown, and white folks sit down together, we get to know each other, we build trust, and that's the biggest gift we can give to our future. We're also going to be enhancing the corridors for residents and businesses and visitors. And so just an example there, on the right hand is a little piece of street art where some weeds have grown out of the sidewalk, and an artist has made a little man with a big mustache, which is very clever. The bottom right is actually from a museum, but that has been reproduced in murals in some parts of the city. And the left bottom is yarn bombing, and I'll get to that in a moment. Next. So our project has been funded by the Community Foundation. As you might know, they put out a call for special projects, a one-time call for their 40th anniversary to do something unique in the county. And we were very privileged to be selected. And it was primarily because it's a community-based project. It's not one that just a company, a building, a hospital do. It's where the community has to come together. So we have 3 projects. We're going to do yarn bombing on 7 trees and 12 lampposts, and I'll explain yarn bombing. 2 to 3 murals on buildings in the 7th Avenue area. These will be on private buildings. And then there's 1 piece of public art that's to be designed. And how will we do this? We're going to engage the community, and the art's going to be done by local BIPOC artists whenever possible at all.
What's BIPOC?
Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Sure. Submissions for the art have been accepted by STEEP, and we are the clearinghouse for that with a community panel. And the way that the community is involved is they can participate in a lot of ways. There will be a mural selection panel. They have voted on murals. We've given art kits out to hundreds of kids a couple of weeks ago to get kids more involved in art. And then we have asked all the local churches and local communities to be involved. And I've contacted the local police liaison about the project as well. And our project runs for 3 years, from May of 2020 to May of 2025. And until the end of this month, it is not public because the Arts Council, the Community Foundation are going to award us our, big check at the Arts Festival. They chose to do it, to roll these out. So I couldn't put this in the paper. I couldn't make it well known, but I was supposed to, the board and I were supposed to go ahead and continue with the project, but that's why you haven't seen anything about it in the news. So next. So what's yarn bombing? People always say to me, what is yarn bombing? And why is it called that? Yarn bombing is a global art trend that's happening all over the world. It's been happening since about 2015, where people would show up overnight and usually for a political statement or a peace statement, they would just cover something in yarn because yarn is soft. It's not dangerous. It made the point that we're talking about peace, about connection with others. And it's generally made by the hands of men and women and children who are doing something to beautify the world. It's also called yarn graffiti, yarn wrapping. Yarn bombing is a well-known word. So here's some examples. I've seen it all over the world, and there's over 45 cities in the United States that have major yarn bombing installations. I mean, doing bridges, overpasses, statues, all sorts of things. Next. So we have received permission from the city to cover 12 lamp posts that run along the Maple Street, along where the parking lot is at the farmer's market, so along Maple Street. And then I did a presentation to the board of the tree committee of the city of Hendersonville. And they have agreed that we can yarn bomb 4 trees in front of the depot. Those are the ones on the top right. And then 3 trees opposite of White Duck. Now, we personally would love to yarn bomb that oil tank right there, if we can get permission to do that, because it could be a lot more attractive if it's covered in yarn. So we're still working on that.
How long do these installations till they fall apart or stay on?
In many cities, they leave them on till they fall apart, and that can be 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
We have permission as a trial with the city to leave them on the trees for the winter. The yarn, on the yarn posts, we haven't come to a final conclusion on that, but they may be up longer.
Probably what we'd want to talk about here.
Mhm. The tourism office is very excited about it, and they've asked me to write something up to make this part of Home for the Holidays, because they are to go up in November and to come down on the trees in March. So that's a perfect time during Home for the Holidays. It's something to go down there for. People can go down to shop. There's something to see. In fact, the tourism office would like us to do them all over the city, but we're going to just hold on.
Could I interrupt for just a second? I have some real concerns about us doing this and the streetscape at the same time. Because it's obviously, there's going to be a lot of dirt and debris and construction going on. And I'm not sure that timing is going to be very good for this winter.
Well, as I understand it, the streetscape ends before these begin, and we did that with some planning with Jamie. Because the four in front of the depot are on the depot side. And the streetscape ends, as I understand it, before the White Duck Taco area.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that there will be dirt and things, but there will be with snow and rain and ice and all of that. But certainly we'll make, if it's a problem, we'll make them further up because they can go anywhere on the trees, really. Next. So this is just, I won't go through all this, but this is a list of a lot of the partners who are involved with this program through the Community Foundation, the Girls and Boys Club, Hendersonville Arts Department. Aguda Synagogue is going to have either a tree or a lamppost as part of their 100th anniversary. We've asked all the Black history, local churches, other places to adopt a tree, so to speak. But if they're not all adopted, just all the pieces are going to be put together. Next week, I'll be presenting to the Diversity Inclusion Committee. And, we're involved with a lot of different groups, as you can see, everything from the tree board to the city council and the tourism office to get this done. So what would we like from you today? I'd really like, as the chair, to have any feedback on the concept. We would love it if you would like to have one of your members on the mural selection panel. And we're also still looking for buildings for the murals. We have made headway on that, but if you or anyone knows a building that has particularly a side brick, or it could be board building, that we can put the murals on, that would be great.
On 7th Avenue or Maple or.
7th Avenue or Maple. Mhm. And then positive support in the community about it, that we all uphold this is a good idea to beautify and represent the community and create a way that the communities are coming together.
I have a building that has a very large side to it at 7th and Maple. That would be perfect for a mural. But my question would be, if the building owner says yes, do we have any decision on what mural is placed there?
A building owner would have some input, absolutely. I've been working with a real estate lawyer and we have developed an easement because the murals would need to be up for at least 5 years. Otherwise, they're not a long-term public property for the community foundation. And that easement would transfer if the building was sold. There's language in it that will not bar selling, et cetera. There are remedies. Would you have input? Yes, there would be input within reason. And I'll tell you what the basic requirements of our murals are. We have put out a call to artists. I mean, I'm a professional artist. I work with professional art organizations. So I knew what the call to artists should be like. And I worked with the North Carolina Council on Arts to do this. First off, we will only have trained muralists put them up. The murals will have people of color. They will represent the agricultural area of Henderson County. We hope that they will represent aspects of the past, the present, and the future. An example of that might be that there would be a mountainscape with some people in it, and there would be apple trees, and then grapevines for the vineyards, and then maybe some a train, and then something that would represent the past. So we're talking historical representations that lead into the future. and also represent the mixed cultures and colors of the community. So it wouldn't be a blank, this is the only mural you get. We would sit down with the building owner and discuss those. We have had 3 excellent murals submitted, and the community have voted on those, and they more or less all have equal votes. So that's why we would like a panel, and if one of you would like to be on the panel, that would be great, to join some members of the community to choose them. Now, we have funds to do 2 murals, maybe 3, depending on the size. And the mural would be at no cost to the building owner and no maintenance to the building owner. A building simply could not infringe upon the view or put something up in front of the mural or, deface it.
Mhm.
Does that answer you?
Yes, yes. And Jamie, do you know where I'm talking about on the side of the building where Daddy D's is? You
No,
can,
I was trying to think on your
you
buildings. I
can
was
see
thinking,
that from Four Seasons Boulevard as you come across.
let me
that
pull that
was-
up on Google Maps, because I was thinking about you, but then I was like, well, you don't have any side facing.
I have that upstairs whole side available.
Really?
And you can see, so you can see it when you're standing at the depot and you can see it when you're coming across Four Seasons.
Is this second, Linda, is this second floor, second story?
Yes, so it'd be around the corner from where you guys see right there. So yeah, go back. So up, yeah, there used to be a Coca-Cola mural there way back when.
The building that they tore down.
This upper part right here.
Yeah, it doesn't show it very well there, but it's pretty
Yeah.
visible.
What about the front of that, Linda, facing 7th? That could still be seen from Four Seasons.
I don't know that you'd want to do it on the front.
I
of the
don't think I
building.
would want to do it on the front because we're gonna open up those windows and we also have a lit sign that's going back up there, which is one of those arrow signs. So I don't think the front would work out, but the side would. And it's a lot more than, the picture doesn't show it real well, but especially
From
when
a distance. Yeah.
you're up on
Mhm.
elevation a little bit.
Well, Linda, I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it. We're having discussions with a couple of buildings.
Okay.
Our hope is that once this project is successfully done, that we may move on to more murals. Both the city and the state arts council are very interested in this project. So I'll get your number and I'd love to have a meeting with you if I might.
Okay. That would be great.
Good. Thank you. And then if you know any other buildings, any owners, because it always makes more sense if an owner down there approaches another owner about.
Lyle's building at 317.
Yeah.
Would be a good one for the beginning of the street, so to speak.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about those because they put so much into stripping that paint.
I know.
off.
I know.
But I didn't even think about your building, Linda, just the upper floor. I'd sent an email to David White with WCCA or WNC Source, I think is what they're called now,
Mhm.
for their property. He didn't know that he had a side of a building that would work for it necessarily, but I like the idea, me personally, of it on that side facing east, like how your building is, Linda, because that's
Yeah.
kind of coming in from that direction, I think is a good
It's-
visual.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good visual, especially, like I said, you can come across Four Seasons and see it also. But yeah, I hear what you're saying about Lyle's end building, but I think it would be worth contacting him. It's a good spot also.
Yeah, I'll
He
share
was
it.
asking me
Give us
for a
some.
mural artist.
What's that?
He was asking me for a mural artist the other day.
Mhm.
Oh, perfect. So we'll
Yeah.
connect that. What was your question, Patsy?
The train depot where the miniature train club is? Who owns that building?
The city owns the depot,
Well, is there a side that faces Seventh that?
not really for the depot. And because it's like, I don't think we would want to paint a mural on the side of that. Because it's such a historic building as it is. And since it's the wood panels, it's not like a good flat wall.
We,
They said they can do wood.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it would be better in this case for it to be on private property and not a city-owned property.
Now, the only issue with the upstairs of mine would be, we would need to get permission from the building owner next door to have ladders on his roof while we're doing it.
And I can put you in touch with them
Yeah.
as well. I don't know if you've had any,
Cabbage Rose,
yes.
Cabbage Rose.
Yeah, but it's the building owner of Cabbage Rose. So.
Mhm. I mean, another one that would be fabulous would be LK's at M&M. You know, they got,
Yes.
and if anybody has any inroads to LK to let us do that, that would be great. The,
I do have inroads to LK, but LK is going to defer back to the-
Henderson.
Yeah, he's going to defer back to the tenant, so the building or the business owner. So.
And I've talked with Ron Henderson
Mhm.
and his staff, and they like the general idea, but they weren't sure if LK would go for it. I'm due to go back and meet with Ron later this week.
Yeah, and I guess the building's going to LK's daughters when he passes, so they will have to get intertwined into that.
Sure.
I'm open for mine in the front, though I know, as you know, it's gonna be some changes. But I'm still open for my building that's directly facing Seven.
Mhm.
Yeah, Terry's building is,
Yeah, that could be nice, Terry.
yeah, just at the top part here.
Yes,
Because that would be really the only place that could work right there, right?
And that would be a dynamite place to put one. Now, the mad scientist is very happy to have one on the side of the building. I'm still trying, I've been to David Huntley's office 1,000,000 times trying to call him, see him, because he owns that building.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
And that would be a great place to do a depot related mural there. And I particularly liked the written version from Branding, because I'd like to get that at some point in time, everything they wrote, because that would really inform the muralists.
Yeah.
Because while we have the submissions and they're very good, none of them meet all our requirements. So once we select them, then there'll be a phase 2 of saying, take your rendering and go back and redo it to get everything in it we want, including a selfie spot to advertise Seventh Avenue. And see, that's where I think having Seventh Avenue downtown's creative edge somewhere in there and people could stand under it when they get their selfie done would be really cool.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna do a couple of tweaks to that wording, but I think that really, I'm glad that we talked about that right before you talked, so it's really talking about the same areas.
Hey, a selfie on a city-owned building. I know you think it, but they're all historic buildings in here together. I don't think you should completely shut down the side of the train depot, but I'm only one of.
Well, you know, I suppose it's worth a conversation to have it. It is much simpler if we work with private building owners.
Is it?
Well, it's cuts the process by about 18 months.
Hey, that makes.
And ideally, we would like to unveil at least one mural June of 2023. And the yarn bombing will start going in November through March of this year. And if the city like it and the tree board are convinced that sweaters on trees will not damage them, we might be able to leave those up longer. I mean, I did all the research on that. There is no problem with that. The city of Greenville have left them up between 15 and 20 years until they fell off and the trees were just thriving. So no problem.
What's nice about that timing for when they're happening is because of the streetscape, what we're gonna want to be thinking about is how we can continue to like show that businesses are open and that there's activity going on during the construction. So that's kind of a non-invasive way of doing that. And we can have promotional things we can push out while people are not happy about their business being interrupted with construction. We're gonna want to do as much as we can to show that there's stuff going on, that businesses are still open.
And while the yarn bombing, it takes longer to put up, it's pretty easy to take down because we put it up with zip ties and you clip the zip tie, you pull it out of the bottom and it comes off. And then just as an aside, there is a Girl Scout group or two that approached me about doing a service project. And I met with Reverend Tim at the Rescue Mission, and he and I agreed that on their property, the Girl Scouts and the public could bring new hats, gloves, scarves, put them in Ziploc bags, put them in a gift bag and hang them on the trees or on the fence at the rescue mission so that the people who need them could get them. But that would be like a Christmas present. And the tourism office loved that as being a community-wide holiday service project. So it's, this whole project is evolving. The more people hear about it, the more they want to be part of it. Any other feedback? I mean, is it a good idea, a bad idea? Because I would love to get information for our board and to take into full consideration your thoughts.
I did like the fact that you're talking about the 7th Avenue corridor, which I assume expands a little bit further than 7th, because that's part of, the challenge of what we're doing is we've got a lot of businesses on Maple, a lot of businesses down Locust, 8th. And so I think we need to definitely make sure that we're incorporating more than just the 7th Avenue street.
Yes, it's the whole corridor. Any concerns about it other than the streetscape? We're going to work with that. Jamie and I'll work closely on that.
I think it's good.
Well, if you know anybody who knits, crochets, or macrames, just go to steep.net, our website, and it has the section on this. It has all the instructions. And the tourism office are the drop-off point for any of the rectangles that people are creating. And the beautiful thing about that is they got 93-year-old Appalachian women doing them. I got kids at Girl Scouts doing them. We've invited all the local Black and white churches to do them. So we're trying to involve the whole neighborhood.
You mentioned churches. First United Methodist Church, we do something for the Boys and Girls Club for Christmas, and always a bunch of knitted things show up as gift, pot holders or whatever. I don't know who the people are, but the pastor's name is very similar to yours, but it's Karen something Bay, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
At First Methodist.
First United Methodist, yeah.
Okay.
And then
But I don't know who the ladies are, and they always show up at the last minute. It's a lot of knitted,
just bring a bunch of stuff.
a bunch of knitted towels, washcloths.
I blame them for my house being full of stuff. My daughter and her friend.
Screwed somewhere in.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they're so the October market, farmers markets are always ones that we would try to have extra stuff going on because it slows down for the farmers market. And so they're going to plan, what were the dates for?
The 15th and the 29th of October, we're going to do yarn in days at the depot where people bring their own chairs and knitting needles and things. And we're just going to knit. And then on the 19th of November, which is the only Christmas day at the farmer's market, we're going to start putting them up. And if anybody needs yarn, the Mountain Rug Mill have given us thousands of yarns, of skeins of yarn. And so we're going to give away. We don't want anyone not to participate because they don't have materials.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, comments from anybody?
And if anyone would like to be on the board on our panel selection of the final murals, I guess contact Jamie.
Yeah, and I can put you in touch with Karen Eve, and then also I'll get Karen Eve in touch with Linda and Lyle.
Yeah, who wants to do the selection committee? Somebody step up. Patsy, Linda.
I'll try.
What do you mean the selection committee of the murals or the?
The murals, yes, it would be, we have 3, but we need to add a few things to them and meet with the artists so that the artists have a complete rendering of what we want. I expect there would be no more than 2 meetings in the next 6 weeks.
My problem unfortunately is getting into town for them if they've got to be in face, in person.
Patsy's around for the next 6 weeks, right, Patsy?
Mostly, yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. She can report back.
My name's been mentioned a few times today. I think.
So I'll,
3.
yeah,
He already.
all right, so I'll connect y'all, Patsy and Karen Eve. So, okay, Linda, sure I can understand my notes after the meeting, so. Okay, great. Well, cool. Thank y'all for what you're doing with the project. I think that you've had a good planned approach for it. And I think it's gonna be fun. I like the yarn bombing. Whenever years ago, it wasn't a yarn bomb, but it was a yarn coral reef.
Yes,
It was about 10 years ago, and it was, everybody got together and did crocheting that made balls and different sea urchins and stuff like that. So I went to a couple of crochet stitch and bitch things where you make,
I have,
that was cool.
I own one of the city bears.
yeah,
I mean, if we can secure the bear downtown and on 7th and you want to yarn over the bear. I don't know if that would be kind of cool.
sure.
Well, I'll talk with Public Works on, because then after the auction, we'll have some extra stands, so we can secure it to one of the stands.
Yeah,
Like it's.
that would be fun to see 1 or 2 of the bears on 7th Avenue yarned up.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
just,
and I'm still working, Terry was one of the first people to put his hand up at the very first community meeting to say we could use his building, which was so encouraging. But we've also been thinking about maybe doing some kind of yarn bombing thing on the top of his. And I could even see a bear on the building and it has a yarn bomb tree up there. And the bear's trying to get the apple or something. You know, there's all kinds of things.
how much of the, like a standing bear probably, how much of the standing bears if you got a unpainted one?
So the unpainted ones this year are $1,200. And then they get painted and then auctioned off.
So
Yarn
tell me
bomb.
about the bear thing, 'cause I may be interested in buying a bear.
So we don't sell them like just straight up the bears. We sell a sponsorship for them. That's the $1,200. And then that sponsor then works or selects a nonprofit to be the beneficiary. So I'll send you the sponsorship information. So in like towards around October, November, December is when we'll get all the sponsorships in, and then the bears will come blank. And then between the sponsor, the nonprofit, and an artist that they choose, then they'll
Paint them up,
Paint it.
display them on Main Street, but you could buy one in October that's already painted, right? When's the
at the
auction?
auction, yeah.
Auction. And it goes partly to the downtown historic district and partly to whatever
Whatever.
charity nonprofit it was picked.
Yeah, they split them between, so up to $3,000, we get half for the Friends of Downtown nonprofit, and that basically funds the bear program, and then, extra things that we do downtown, public art, things like that. And then the rest just goes straight up to the, whatever the nonprofit is. And for this year, the nonprofits are already selected, but they're not for next year. Some of them are, some of them have already put in to be one.
My own personal nonprofit then.
Yeah, you sure could, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll send you some info on that.
Or you could borrow one of Patsy's for just a year until we did.
So I only have one, but
Yeah.
it's a mama and baby bear.
Yeah.
but it's my front yard. I could travel.
Yeah, we could work on it.
Yeah, they're surprisingly, very lightweight.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if you contacted some of the owners of these bears, if they'd be willing to. You know, some of them are in storage somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, that they would be willing to loan them for a yard barn
Mhm.
Yeah, that could,
project. I think that's kind of.
yeah, we would just have to get the stands.
Yeah,
Things
Because-
can be done.
Yeah, because we wouldn't want to have them just out with the fiberglass, because they could easily walk away if they're just the fiberglass.
you know, that's a great idea as we roll after the streetscape and to do some other grants to have more art downtown.
This thing too, like a bear on Seventh as well, once everything.
Now, I think there were, they did them for a couple of years, but I think that they had some issues with them. This was years ago before I was around. I think they tried it, but now at the streetscape, I think we revisit that.
Well, and I think the key there is if you get artists local to Seventh Avenue, then there's a different there's a pride in having your local artists.
Well, and have the businesses roll them in at
Yeah.
night and out in the daytime.
Yeah. Oh, Michelle, sorry, I didn't see you had your hand raised.
Well, I had put in the chat to let her know that if she wanted another volunteer, I would be happy to do that. Just because, you know, I do know a little bit about art. but
Yes.
I don't know if she wants somebody that's not on the. You
Michelle-
can share that information with her later on.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Michelle owns Art Mob.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so one other, if there's nothing else on this, we'll move on to the next topic. Okay, the last thing, the last real thing I had for the agenda. There we go. Sorry. So for the parking garage, there is an opportunity on the side of the garage. Trying to, oh wait, I know. Okay, so right here is a banner sign that will be on the parking garage. And the city's asked us to think about ideas for what we'd like to have on those banners. You know, they're banners, so they can rotate. I think they're about 1 foot by 10 feet or so.
There are two.
Yeah, there's two, and this is at the corner. I believe this is at the corner of Fifth and the alley. So that would be what.
Heading towards.
Yeah, so that would be what would be visible from Main Street and for people walking. We don't have to come up with a final idea today, but just something to kind of be thinking about, or any creative ideas. It could also be things to promote events. They could.
One could be a
rotate.
bunch of bees for Bee City, one could be a bunch of trees for Tree City.
Mother Nature killed the caregivers also.
Oh, yeah, that they just.
Yeah, they just did a presentation. And,
Mother Nature. That's a
Mother Nature caregiver.
cool sounding group.
Any other thoughts on that?
Well, if they can rotate, I mean, it seems a shame to not have anything by Carl Sandburg up in our city. At least have a quote now and then, you know, not all the time, but there's enough short quotes about trees, flowers,
Mhm.
things like that, or other notable people.
And we have so many artists now and
Yeah,
galleries, some kind of art.
Yeah, I guess it could be something that, Michelle, you might, what do you think if it's something that's related to the artscape?
That's a big banner
Yeah.
for one artist.
That is a big banner, but you could take several of the pictures and put them vertically on there and have maybe 3 or 4 lovely, well curated pieces on them. Instead of like just one artist, you could, kind of like we've done the children's banners in the past where we've had four small photos on it, on each side of the banner.
Mhm.
Something like that, maybe. Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess one thing we can think about is just getting some that are, kind of like how we have our Main Street banners that are like our generic ones that are just our year-round ones, and we could have those for when we don't have other things to rotate around. And we can also get those to see how the visibility is. Because my only concern if we did multiple pieces of art on something like that would be it'd be real small, yeah, and that'd be so high up. It might be not,
Well, it's
Right,
10
this
foot,
whole-
right?
yeah, but it's gonna be,
Foot wide.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's only-
10 foot. But the other thing I was just thinking, what if we did, like for the rest of the year, we did 175th kind of thing? I don't know how expensive they're going to be and how long you want them to stay up or how much you want them to rotate. But if we had some that,
Well, it's already a
I
second.
think the 175th will probably be over before we have them put up.
I like focusing on what.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The B city, historic city, whatever.
Yeah, because I think these probably won't go up till probably towards the later part of the garage. That's a good thought, then, Michelle.
Caregivers.
Yeah.
I love that, nature's caregivers.
I have looked that up.
Okay, well, we'll kind of be thinking about it and think about ways if we wanted to have them rotate or have some general city ones and then things that the city is doing. And then like, I feel like it's going to be hard to gauge how visible they are. So we get one up and we see how, see how it looks.
ooh, what if we had one in the summer where it said Rhythm and Brews this Thursday?
Yeah.
James Martin.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of famous video.
I know.
You say James Brown?
Yeah, me, right? That straight through the mountain,
Uh-huh.
that field, which is a cornfield.
Yeah.
James Brown.
Duh.
He is right here.
Yes, so that's one of the things we have to do is have people like that in the murals. Because
I've never heard of that.
then we could have a city walking tour of the mural.
Yeah.
You know, we spanking from Little Rascals.
Uh-huh.
He live in Flat Rock, but he's the original owners of that, Henderson Oil, like,
Really?
Yep,
I don't know if he's still living.
From the show,
yeah.
from the show Little Rascals?
We have the co-founder of Honor Flight, something to,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Mhm.
It started here in Little Hendersonville. Well, in Ohio, but.
Okay, well, I'll put together something and then we can kind of still keep thinking on that. I'll put based off of what feedback we've gotten and maybe have some type of plan for rotations of them, because I think that would be cool to have them rotate maybe seasonally or something. Okay, the last thing I had on the agenda was just a facade grant program, which was kind of carrying over from last time. We were talking about updating the model for that, and I have not done much on the updating for that. I updated is that I have not much of an update. But we are working with UNC Greensboro for some design work for Terry's building on 7th Avenue. That's where UNC Greensboro students, architecture students, do the renderings for buildings. So I just got an email from them today. So we're working on that for another facade project. And that's really the updates that I've got. Is there anything else? We're right at 10 o'clock. Nothing on the call? Anybody in the room? Great. All right, well, I'll connect everybody that I have my orders to from here, and that's all we got.
Thank you very much for let me hear through the presentation.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.